Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by James Gisante, and we start in the obvious position this week. James, what was Dana Brooke's best match of 2022? It is what everybody is talking about this week.
I certainly have opinions on it, Nick, but I'll be honest, I don't think I'm as prepared to answer that as Dana herself was on Reddit. So go be a Dana Brooke fan. Go check out her Reddit response to that very question. She's very insightful.
Yes, Dana took a brilliant opportunity to create a mega thread, which was made a mega thread by the mods, who highly encouraged this, but created a thread on Reddit in the midst of everything going on to discuss what her best match of 2022 was, and came, as James said, with receipts and links to all of her matches. So shout out to her. That was hilarious. It was very smart, and it was just a really good shot of levity into a situation where everyone was kind of panicking online about what had happened earlier this week. And that is the obvious place we need to start. What happened earlier this week following the results of All Outs on Sunday night / Monday morning. I'm sure everyone has seen what has gone on, but we will recap it very quickly here. In his post pay-per-view press conference, CM Punk decided to, as Eddie Kingston would say, address his enemies, and address them he did. It started with Punk seeing a reporter in the front row who he thought had a relationship with Colt Cabana, and he used that opportunity to just start eviscerating everybody. He talked about his former relationship with Colt and the lawsuit that resulted in everything that happened following Punk's departure from WWE. He made reference to Colt sharing a bank account with his mother, which I found very strange. He then went on to call out Hangman Adam Page for something that we discussed a couple of weeks ago. And if you haven't seen all of the background to all of this, we will provide a link to our breakdown of that up in the corner somewhere, as well as below. But he made reference to Hangman Adam Page, like I said, and the perceived slight of Hangman, quote, going into business for himself. He also then took that opportunity, Punk did, to call out the EVPs of the company, saying they couldn't even manage a target. Obviously, the EVPs being the Elite in Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. And it was all very awkward, and there was a lot of cursing, and it was even made all the stranger by CM Punk being covered in blood. And even more the stranger with Tony Khan sitting there with a number of bewildered and almost occasionally amused faces, and just absolute silence from Tony as he sat there and watched Punk call out a good chunk of his locker room and pretty much every reporter in that room. Following all of that craziness, it got even worse, because during all of that, Punk said, if anyone wants to talk to me, I'll be in my locker room, to which the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega reportedly took him up on that. The Bucks went to his room. A door was opened in some way, shape, or form. We don't know if the Bucks stormed in there. At some point, the story became they kicked it down, but I mean, I haven't seen anything confirming they actually super kicked the door in. They went in there probably very loudly, asking Punk what was going on, and this led to what has been described as a fracas or a melee. Punches were thrown, purportedly by CM Punk. Apparently, Ace Steel, who has now come into the forefront of AEW, starting with his promo just last week on Dynamite, and now becoming the guy who threw a chair during this fight, and also reportedly biting somebody. It's been reported now that that person was Kenny Omega. So this led to just a crazy scene backstage. There was a lot of people trying to pull people apart. People were trying to save Larry because the dog was in the middle of it. And eventually this all got out. Suspensions were handed down as of the other day. According to Sports Illustrated, they were the first to report on it. The list of those receiving suspensions included Kenny Omega, Matt and Nick Jackson, Pat Buck, Christopher Daniels, Michael Nakazawa, and Brandon Cutler. We haven't gotten official reports on whether or not Punk or Ace Steel have been suspended. We're, as of this taping, we're not sure, but as of Dynamite on Wednesday, Punk was stripped of his title, and he was also injured as well during his match with Moxley, so he wasn't coming back anyway. But either way, it does seem like he indeed has been suspended, and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were stripped of their trio tournament as well. Now, James, before I go to you, just a little bit more news, which is actually a little bit breaking here. It just came out a little while before we started recording. Fightful Select was able to get the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega side of the story from sources close to the Elite. So this is credit of Fightful Select and SRS. So sources close to the Elite say the Bucks went to talk to Punk just like he told them to. The Bucks did not barge into the room, but rather opened the door. And before either of them, anybody could say anything, Punk just started punching Matt Jackson in the head. Nick Jackson then went to stop it. Ace Steel then threw the chair at him. This is my favorite part. Kenny went to pick up and remove Larry from the situation because he was freaking out. And after Kenny passed him over and got Larry out, allegedly it was passed over to Mega, who is basically the number 2 in AEW and the legal counsel for them. Ace then attacked Kenny and bit Kenny. All parties were shouting, and Punk threatened a lot of legal action. But this is, according to SRS, only the one side of the story. We have not heard Punk's side from him or his camp yet. I can also confirm to you that since Mega was brought up with the dog, Dave Meltzer has confirmed, and Brian Alvarez as well, that not only was Mega present for the fight, but the Young Bucks brought her with them to the initial confrontation. So she was there for the whole thing. I know I've
good job. No, good. I got to give it to you. That was a lot. Bravo, sir.
Yep, and that was a lot for you guys as well. So take a breath there for a second. Okay. Now, reports are that there is going to be an investigation done by a neutral party. I believe
external one. Yeah.
So there will be a lot of interviews. A lot of people witnessed this, obviously. I do think, James, that's why guys like Pat Buck and Christopher Daniels were suspended. Probably Cutler and Nakazawa as well. All reports are where those guys were just trying to pull everybody apart. But normally in these situations, you suspend everybody a lot of times with pay. And then you figure out what's what, and you level the rest of the punishments from there. So, like I said, a lot thrown at you, James. I guess start where you'd like and just take it, because I'm not really sure where to start with any of this.
No, you did a great job of recapping it. That was very professional, and you should be proud of yourself. You are a credit to the marks.
Appreciate it.
And I am going to do my best to maintain that, but I'm also going to be honest with all of you. I am 100% a mark. I have met CM Punk before on a couple of occasions. I've met Kenny Omega before on several occasions. I've met the Young Bucks before on several occasions.
The Young Bucks kissed you, so
that they did. We got intimate. I love these wrestlers. These are some of the best wrestlers in the world to me. And I could 100% say I have an emotional connection to watching these guys. I am a mark for Kenny Omega. I am a mark for the Young Bucks. On occasion, I could be a little markish for CM Punk. But I have been waiting to tear into this guy since 2009, and he broke my young teenage heart for how he treated Jeff Hardy. But in all seriousness, this is first and foremost a very messy situation. It's very, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, it was unnecessary from the get-go. There's one thing I got to give Punk. In his media scrum, he said something that's, I can understand being frustrating. It has been roughly 10 years, going on 10 years, since he's been friends with Colt Cabana. And it's gotta suck that 10 years later, he's still talking about this legal situation with Colt Cabana.
Which has since been settled, so.
Absolutely. I 100% understand being frustrated. We did talk about it here on the pod before, about the Punk Cabana stuff, you know, and I don't know if you mentioned it already, but we're going to link it for you guys to click on. But that was a phase of Punk's life that I'm sure he wishes was over. We don't know if he had anything to do with him being moved to Ring of Honor. I think it's fair to say that it was probably just Tony Khan doing what he thought was best, and somehow that landed on Punk's feet, which sucks to be in Punk's shoes in that instance. But the reality is, from my point of view, even if we go back to when Hangman cut that promo and reportedly went into business for himself, CM Punk has been unprofessional on at least 2 occasions now. If Hangman went into business for himself, and that should be reprimanded, Punk did the same when he gave him the receipt. Now, as far as I'm concerned, neither man should have been punished for that. It should have been over. We should have moved on. But Punk couldn't do that. During the media scrum, Punk, no one asked him about Cabana. No one was asking him about the situation. He decided to vent. He decided to let loose. And he's the one who decided to curse out one of the top baby faces in the company. He's the one who decided to curse out the EVPs of the company. He's the one who essentially shushed Tony Khan as he was trying to interject. Punk is a grown man, and he made decision after decision that was detrimental to the people around him. And it sucks. It's not only does it suck because it's CM Punk, it sucks because he just became their world champion. It's not as simple as just getting rid of a guy. It's getting rid of your world champion. Now, you fast forward to what allegedly happened with the Elite confronting him. It was Punk who said, hey, I'm in the arena. I'm staying in the arena. If you have a problem with what I said, come tell me. Those were Punk's words. I'm going to be in the hallway. Come find me in the hallway. They looked for him. They did exactly that. Now, even before I heard about Mega being there, I was under the impression that, or I was hoping that the impression was that the Elite knocked on his door, wanting to talk, and Punk responded with violence. That's the impression I was under. And again, that's me being a mark for Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. The fact that it seems they were smart enough to bring Mega, the head of the legal department for AEW, means that they were not looking to start a fight. I'm sure they were hot. I'm sure they were heated. And you know what? Who wouldn't be after being called out the way they were by Punk? I would be hot too. So personally, I'm more on the side of Kenny and the Bucks here. Anybody, if the story is to be believed, if it's true, who could be mad at a guy who was trying to get a dog out of a violent situation? Because I definitely can't. So it was very upsetting to hear all of this. The fact that now we have a stripped world champion, we have a stripped trios championship set, which honestly hurts even more because they were waiting for the Elite to crown the inaugural champions in the first place. This just really, really sucks. Everyone in some way or another, as much as I'm pro-Elite in this situation, there is an argument to be made that maybe they shouldn't have gone to Punk's locker room in the first place, even if their intentions were just to talk.
Maybe not even that night. Maybe do it the next week, just so cooler heads can prevail.
Exactly. And what sucks about this situation even more, Punk was hurt, not in the fight, but in the match with Moxley. So the reality is, if they never confronted him, he was still going to be gone no matter what. So all that happened was that the Elite and everyone else who was in the crossfire, whether it was Christopher Daniels or Brandon Cutler, who God willing had his camera out, or truth be told, Michael Nakazawa's had this coming after the body oil, the baby oil situation with Matt Sydal. You know, his crimes are finally catching up with him.
Long-term booking.
Oh yeah, AEW knows what they're doing, man. But it's just very frustrating. Like I said, nobody looks great here, whether or not you're the Elite, whether or not you're Punk. And truth be told, I think the person who kind of looks worse here, and he did recover a little bit tonight, is Tony Khan. Tony Khan looked so ill-prepared Sunday at the media scrum. He really, I'm trying to be very political about it.
Oh, I'm not.
I have been a big Tony Khan supporter since AEW started. I've given him, in my opinion, a lot of leeway. And truth be told, I do think he's earned a good amount of it. I think he's made his booking, I can admit, caters to me and my interests. As a booker, I'm a fan of him, even though he's made decisions I disagree with. He's fresh blood. I like, for the most part, his attitude. And he gave me something that I've been needing, and that's AEW. So I'm 100% willing to admit I've been very forgiving of Tony Khan in the past. That said, this situation with Punk was terrible. He should have cut Punk off the minute this started.
The second he said the word Scott Colton out of his mouth, it's over.
Absolutely. And I gotta give him, I gotta be honest, I gotta be fair. I wouldn't necessarily know what to do in that situation either. I don't know how I would react in that moment. But the difference between me and Tony Khan is I'm not a billionaire who's in charge of this company that everyone is relying on. I'm not in that position to say, I need to know. He was, and he, in my opinion, failed. If the Elite are to be blamed for how they reacted, I put it at Tony Khan's feet for allowing Punk to say the words in the first place.
I put almost all of the blame for this on Tony Khan.
Yes. It's Punk. Punk is Punk.
Look, that's true. And you're right. Like, obviously, he can be a volatile person on occasion. You know, we've obviously seen his problems, and they've bubbled up again. But this starts and ends with Tony, and not just him bringing Punk in. The second these Colt Cabana rumors start swirling around, you got to shut that down. You can't have that going around the locker room. You can't have people thinking that this guy he brought in, this, you know, legendary mythical character that he brings in, has the power over the locker room and not even booking decisions, but personnel decisions. You have to shut that down immediately before it starts. And if I remember correctly, he had the opportunity to, and he didn't. He kind of hand waved it away. He
did speak on it. I don't think he was as clear-cut as he should have been. He did say that it wasn't Punk who pushed him to do it, but it felt like a very, I don't want to talk about this response. So when you do that and you don't elaborate on certain things, sometimes for the right, sometimes for the wrong, and again, I'm trying to be fair here, it's going to open up people to speculate. And that's what happened. People have been speculating for a very long, truth be told, even before the rumors started spreading, the whispers were there that why are we seeing less of Colt Cabana? Where's Colt Cabana? I wonder if they're going to interact. And it just never resolved. It's like you said, he should have squashed it a lot earlier than he did, but I don't think anybody saw it going as bad as it did. And I'm going to just say something that maybe I'm wrong for saying, but it's the truth. Hangman's promo wasn't that bad.
I don't think it was either.
I don't think it's any worse than anything Eddie Kingston said. I don't think it's any worse than anything MJF said. I think the only difference here is that Hangman did it without asking permission from Punk. But there's even a rumor going that Punk had his horns twisted by Hangman because of a media question that was asked to him. Did you hear about this?
Yes. So that was Hangman pretty much was asked, with certain veterans in the locker room, and I think Sting and Punk were mentioned specifically,
yes,
what he learns from them. And Hangman was like, I don't really go to them. I just kind of try to figure it out on my own. Not it was that vibe. I think he said it in a different way where I could see why a guy like Punk, like you said, got his horns in a twist. I guess to put that in a nice little political way. But I'm just get back to Tony here, okay, even if you say in the media and you kind of, are a little dodgy about it, saying, it wasn't Punk who made me decide to not renew Cole's contract. You got to make sure the locker room knows that, because it's way more important that the locker room knows that than the people do. Okay, so he didn't do that. He didn't squash everything with Heyman the second he knew about it. You got to sit them two down and be like, look, if you got problems, fine, but it can't go past here. He didn't do that. He didn't do it when Punk gave Hangman his receipt all those months later when Punk came back, which was also a mistake. And he just lets all of this sit there and fester and just has no control over the situation at the end there when Punk is sitting in this press conference and just popping off at the mouth, And Tony's got to have the huevos there too to be like, dude, you got to stop. Like, even if you unplug his mic for all I care. Even as a business decision, you can't have CM Punk sitting there and going through all of his personal drama with people, who are very respected and high up in the company, whether they're not, they are wrestlers. You can't have that just from a PR decision, an aspect. So I think this is seriously on Tony Khan, because as much as we're going to talk in circles tonight, the buck, no pun intended, has to stop with him. He is in charge, and this entire time, he has shown no balls in any of these situations to make all of these guys just shut the fuck up and get it together and make the show go on and keep this locker room together. The locker room was in shambles to the point where they had that meeting a few weeks ago because they're all split on whether or not they like CM Punk and whose side they on, and whether or not they believe the Colt Cabana rumors. And this all comes down to Tony Khan not doing shit to stop it.
I completely agree. I will not put blame on, I know, cool down for a second there. I will not put blame on Tony Khan for these situations arising. When you are dealing with professional wrestling, which is a traveling circus, essentially, with men hopped up on testosterone with big egos, shit's gonna happen. We all love this concept of this rah-rah teamwork locker room that AEW was touted as having in that first year, that second year. But the reality was, Punk or no Punk, eventually things would come to a head. It's natural. It's natural in a business like this. So I can't blame Tony Khan for these situations arising. My problem with Tony Khan is the fact that he, like you said, didn't handle it the way it needed to be handled.
Or at the time they arose.
Very true. Very true. I stand by it. I like Tony Khan. And I have a lot of faith in him moving forward. I need to. I think tonight was a good first step. Booking decision wise, I disagree with Death Triangle still winning, but I have faith in him and how he's going to move this forward professionally. I'm going to continue to root for him. I love AEW. I love AEW. I have tickets for a lot of AEW events moving forward, and I'm excited to go to them. But this is a very crappy situation, and I'm so annoyed that the guys that I again, as a mark, the guys that I love are in the middle of it. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. So I wish this could have been squashed way ahead of time. It should have been. But it is what it is. Here we are. It's just how we move forward now. And that's not just important in terms of the locker room. It's not just important in terms of fan perception, which are two major things. It's important for Tony's business partners. It's important for potential investors. It's important for their current partner, Warner Brothers Discovery. If they feel that Tony Khan can't keep the ship going afloat without drama, they are already very happy to axe shows, programs, partnerships. So this needs to be done. Happy. I don't know. Like, my emotions on Punk this week have been they fluctuated. You know, there have been moments where I'm like, get this guy out of the company. There have been moments where it's like, you know what, I can live with a suspension. And there have been moments No, those are basically the two. But I can say I don't know what I want to happen to Punk. I don't know if I want him gone long term because I recognize the value it brings to the company. But it sucks that this guy who was talking a very big game about workers' rights, a guy who was talking a very big game about being there for your coworker, even if you don't like them. Those were his exact words. Be there for your coworker, even if you don't like them, because they'll do the same for you when you need it.
I believe that was following the whole Sasha Banks and Naomi saga over in WWE.
Sasha and Naomi once again ruining creative plans for a tag team title, and but anyway, it sucks that this guy who has been so vocally pro unity, leadership, camaraderie is the first person to cause such a massive amount of tension and drama in that same locker room. I don't know if he attracts it. I don't know if he is the cause of it. I don't know. But I do know that everyone will always have some opinion on CM Punk. People are either going to love this man or hate him. And that's not just the fans. That is apparently every locker room he'll ever be in. So I don't know anything other than I'm sad. I am very sad. I want my elite back. I am so disappointed that I'll be a Grand Slam and CM Punk won't be there. I'm disappointed that I'll be a Grand Slam and Kenny Omega won't be there after I've been waiting for him for a year to come back from injury. I'm so upset that the Young Bucks will not be there. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It's so avoidable. And the truth is, going back to the Colt Cabana stuff of it all, even if Colt Cabana was 100% wrong in what went on with Punk, even if he was 100% in the wrong, you know who looks great right now? Colt Cabana, because he has not mentioned any of this once. And I've seen the argument. He probably signed an NDA about the lawsuit. He can't talk about it. He can still talk shit right now about CM Punk. There's no NDA about that. So he still has it. He's maintained the high road, and he's smelling like roses, while CM Punk is smelling like shit, unfortunately.
Yeah, man, you're right. Colt comes out of this looking great just by saying and doing nothing. And, I think people have asked him before, like, about the situation. And he always says, I want to move past it. Like, it's not something I want to dwell on.
He's quoted needing to prioritize his mental health as to why he's not talking about it.
Yeah, and I think he said something similar as to why, I wanted to go to Ring of Honor too. But it's just, it makes sense for him. He, comes out looking fine. And like I said, the Bucks and the Elite obviously come out looking this maybe not great, but we'll see. It depends on whether or not their side of the story is true. I think obviously a good part of it is slanted because it's, one person's side of the story.
Of course.
Punk comes out of this looking like, the CM Punk who, was just an absolute schmuck when he left WWE. Or, so who...
The worst part about it is when Punk left WWE, I supported him leaving WWE.
Yeah, I guess
sucked.
It wasn't then. It was more, I guess, in the aftermath with Colt.
Yeah.
It's that he hasn't looked this bad since then.
And that's the thing about Punk. Even when he's in the right, it seems that he can't stop himself from just getting angrier and falling for it and then somehow turning himself into the bad guy. And that sucks. But we can't really do anything about it anymore. You were mentioning how the Elite might be, looking a little bit better here. And, like it's still slanted, but maybe they do look a little bit better.
Kenny saved the dog. They look fine.
Allegedly. We don't know everything yet. We'll see. We'll see. But I will say one thing that's a concern. Even we mentioned it on the live. You mentioned it before. These three men are EVPs of the company. They're not just wrestlers in the company. They're EVPs. Now, admittedly, their titles as EVPs might not carry the same weight it did when the company first started. At this point, for all we know, it could very well be more of a ceremonial title because they were the founders of the company. and they, it's more of a respect thing, but they are in positions of power in some way, no matter how small. It'll be interesting to see if they maintain those EVP titles after the suspension. It'll be interesting to see how this affects the backstage locker room dynamic with them. And that's another thing too with Punk. Even if Punk does come back, let's say it's just a suspension, he's not fired, whatever. This is going to cause a lot more tension amongst that locker room that was already very tense. And it's a little, interesting. Two of Punk's biggest supporters in the company, FTR, were they booked tonight?
No, I did not see them tonight. Dax had a quick vignette because he has a match on Rampage for the Ring of Honor.
I guess that's true.
Against Claudio Castagnoli. So they were booked tonight. They just weren't on Rampage.
On Dynamite, but yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, they weren't on Dynamite because they're booked for Rampage, which I assume is recording tonight.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Which is Wednesday. Tonight is Wednesday for those of you who are a little confused.
So I went on a while there, and I apologize, everybody. This is a heavy topic, but I think we can all agree, no matter whose side you're on, no matter who's in the right, who's in the wrong, this is a crappy situation for AEW, for the fans, for the talent involved, for Tony Khan. This is just crappy. And I'm sure there are some bright sides we could look at it. Yay, Death Triangle. Yay, maybe Bryan Danielson. I'll take that as a win.
Yeah, the tournament's going to get some good matches out of it. I think we can all agree with that.
But this should never have happened, and we live in a world where it does, and we can't really come back from it. We can't. So thank you, CM Punk /Elite /Larry the Dog.
I think one of the more interesting things you did hit upon, though, was the Warner Discovery stuff, because with the new acquisition of Discovery, and like you said, they are very willing to, get rid of something if they don't like it or they don't think it's going to make them money. This is a true test for Tony Khan, and probably the biggest one since he started the company and their first pay-per-view, So he's going to have to show that he has true leadership skills. And so far, he has on the business side and the media side and the booking side for the most part, but this is the first time we're seeing him on the personnel side, at least in wrestling. And he's got to realize that he can't be everybody's friend, and he can't become enamored with these people and let them run all over him. He did something similar, for those of you who watch football. He did something similar when the Jaguars hired Urban Meyer. He was enamored with Urban Meyer, and he just fell in love with this guy. And Meyer went on to do some ridiculous things, starting in training camp, where it was reported he kicked a kicker, all the way to the point where Meyer got in trouble for dancing with somebody who wasn't his wife in his bar in Ohio after the team lost to the Bengals and flew home without him. And after a just abysmal start to the season, and quite frankly, all the way to the middle, he was finally fired because Tony and his father just finally realized they couldn't do this anymore, and it had to stop. And it's gotten to that point now with CM Punk. He obviously is a huge mark for CM Punk, and he is enamored with the guy, and he's let him run up with, pulling all of this shit to the point now where CM Punk has helped cause this colossal clusterfuck of a situation. So he's got to step up. He's got to be a boss. He's got to, lay down the law here, lay out some punishments, suspensions. Whether or not Punk gets fired, we shall see. But he's got to prove to Warner Discovery that he's got control here. Otherwise, who knows what the future of AEW is going to hold. So we spent a lot of time on this. There are other big stories from this week that we do need to get to. So we will continue to cover it as stuff happens, but let us move on here to some more AEW stuff. Malaki Black has reportedly received his conditional release within the last few days. Rumor has it that he was actually the person who asked for his unconditional release and was denied, though none of that has been confirmed. Details of the conditional release were not disclosed, at least as of yet. We're not even 100% sure that he was, but all indications are that this is going to happen. And no one's really sure why, but James, I think we discussed this on Sunday during our post All Out show. Malaki has been reportedly going through some mental, perhaps physical things as well, and he might just want some time off. So his conditional release will allow him to do that without being beholden to the company, and perhaps not having the company be beholden to him.
It's a very unique situation.
He's a very unique guy.
You could say that again.
He's a very unique guy. Sorry, go ahead.
I
walked right into that one.
I really did. I really did. Bravo. First of all, look, if this is so Malaki Black can recover both mentally and physically, that is the priority, and I hope he does well. I hope he's able to recover from what he's dealing with. I hope he's able to handle whatever he's dealing with. I wish him nothing but happiness and nothing but health, and I hope he succeeds in those regards. Malachi's a very interesting case because he is a guy who actively, I don't think, wanted to leave WWE. He was fired from WWE in a boneheaded move, in my opinion. And I think most people would agree it was a very odd, weird, stupid decision to fire Malaki Black, or as he's known in WWE, Aleister Black.
He was being built by Paul Heyman, who was running, I think, Raw at the time, for a big spot, and it was building, and then he got fired unceremoniously out of nowhere, which led to the Malaki Black character and the eye and everything.
Yep. It sucked that it happened. We were all very happy that he landed on his feet in AEW. He immediately debuted looking and feeling like a star. Admittedly, there were times that I think his booking could have been a little bit better. But to me, he was always presented as a star. He was presented as a legitimate threat, as a force to be reckoned with. They gave him a stable to be built around him. He got a lot of time. And I think he was a mostly well-protected star. There are reports that he was unhappy with his presentation, which, if that's the case, I don't know what he could have wanted outside of winning a title.
I was going to say, his presentation has been awesome.
I agree.
Their entrance at the pay-per-view, I think it was fantastic.
I'm a big fan of this version of Black, and I'm a big fan of his group, the House of Black. And it sucks that this run might be cut short. I hope it's only temporary. I hope that he's able to find himself back in AEW at some point. And the truth is, if he wants to go to WWE, I wish him nothing but success there. But that's what makes this a unique case, in the sense that Tony Khan isn't just going to let somebody that he had 5 more years of go to WWE. And that's probably what the conditions are. It's probably that he can't jump ship to another company. He's going to be let out of his contract, but if he leaves to go somewhere else, I'm sure there will be legal action taken. And again, that's speculative at this point. We don't know what the conditions of this release were, but
it makes sense, though, that it would be
absolutely.
Whether or not it's it might not even be legal action. It could be like a financial thing where, he's got to buy himself out or something along those lines. Or, maybe it's just WWE and perhaps he can go to Impact or something like that as well. So we again, like you said, we don't know.
We don't.
This is a very, this story is still in its infancy, so to speak. So I'm sure more details will come out as the time goes on.
We do know, it was revealed earlier tonight, he was supposed to appear for a local independent company, NEW, Northeast Wrestling. Go check them out, guys. They're a very fun company.
They can put on good. They put on good local shows. They always get some good people. So I highly recommend them.
They really do. And he was supposed to appear this Friday, and he's had to pull out for what is listed as health reasons. And I mean, admittedly, they said the same thing for Jeff Hardy, because when Jeff Hardy had to pull out of the show. Man, it sucks to make fun of Jeff Hardy, but
Well, I mean, I think that also just speaks to the fact that it could be anything.
oh no, of course,
Not that we're saying that Malachi went down that road, but
oh no, that wasn't the implication.
Just
health reasons. Yeah,
it's a cover all, and it's just to keep it.
Yes.
Keep his privacy, intact.
Absolutely. But regardless, he did pull out of that show. They replaced him with two other stars, one of them being an AEW star, Jay Lethal, who does have a connection to the company. So it's not, while it's possible that Tony Khan let Jay go there, he's also wrestled for them on the same shows that Malachi's been at as well. Yeah, I do think that this is probably legit. I think the guy needs to just relax, recover, enjoy some downtime. Physically, the thing I keep hearing is that it's his back, that his back has been in bad shape for the last 2 years or so, that it was a problem either at the tail end of his WWE run. I actually don't even know how long he's been with AEW at this point. Probably a year, right?
I mean, the last time I remember him being in AEW, they were still, were they in the Thunderdome, or were they still in the Performance Center? I feel like WWE. Yeah. Oh, man, I feel like he got his eye taken out by Seth in the Performance Center.
Yeah, and that kept going for a little while.
Because it was still, if I remember correctly, the hard cam was still facing the stage.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's been that long.
So regardless of anything, his back has been a problem for a while now, and he needs to heal that up. And I will not begin to speak on whatever his mental health issues are, if that is true, that is the another reason he needs time off. But if he's banged up, the man, Tommy End, has been doing this for a very long time. Malaki Black has been doing this for a very long time. If he just needs a break and he's burnt out, I'm good on AEW for giving him the conditional release, because there's no reason in keeping a guy who's unhappy actively working.
Yeah, and more power to him for knowing that he needs the time and taking it. And like you said, good on Tony Khan for, granted, it being a conditional release, which just makes business sense, but at least allowing him to step aside without the pressures of having to come back and lead the House of Black. That being said, I am kind of curious to see what they end up doing. The House of Black, that is, Julia Hart's, probably going to be a little more of the forward face there, and you have Brody and
that would be fun.
Together. I think it's going to be cool.
I think Brody and Buddy would be an excellent tag team if they continue that way. I hope they do. And I hope that even if Malachi's gone for an extended period of time, the group still acknowledges his importance to them. Similar to how the Dark Order still honor Brody Lee. Obviously, this is a different situation, less impactful, but I hope they don't just magically erase what he was to this group.
Yeah, he'll be the absent leader that they're still trying to impress, despite the fact he's not there physically.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure it'd be really cool if he was still, in kayfabe, sending orders from down on high, even though he's not there. So they will. I'm sure they will continue to honor the House of Black, and they'll be okay. And they've done a really good job building Brody up in the last 2 months or so with his feud with Darby and everything. So I think they're going to be great. Yep. All right. Let us move on now to some other news that came out of the All Out press conference, which obviously got buried under a couple of other things that happened that night. But this one's still pretty worthy of talking about. So Toni Storm, obviously that night, won the interim AEW Women's Championship. Thunder Rosa had to step aside due to an injury. And Toni, who was originally set to face her, was entered into the four-way match, and she ended up picking up the W. The news here, though, is during the press conference, Toni Storm made the quip, and I quote, "Thunder Rosa says she's injured. Okay, so when she says she's not injured, she can come back and lose to me, and that will be the end of that." Now, this sent a lot of people into a tizzy for multiple reasons. Thunder is officially injured, but James, I know there have been some rumors that she actually isn't injured, and this has led to some obviously baseless speculation that perhaps she didn't want to, do the job for Toni, or God knows what else. So, this isn't the first time we've had some interesting Thunder Rosa drama, whether it be the sandbagging allegations or what have you. But Toni, who A, is obviously a face, and B, still technically has an on-screen relationship with Thunder, which they acknowledged when Thunder said she had to leave. This is just an odd thing for her to say in kayfabe.
Yeah. So let's start off by saying, if this did happen, not that if this did happen, this did happen, but whether or not this was kayfabe or a shoot, we do not know yet. Maybe in kayfabe, they're building towards Toni Storm feeling that her partner wasn't on the up and up with her. It's a weird way to go. It's like you said, they're a tag team. Toni Storm is a babyface, so to just be throwing accusations is a little weird. I don't know. If it's legit,
whoa,
God, how bad was this? How bad was this media scrum? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, obviously nowhere near as bad as the CM Punk stuff. Obviously. But wow, maybe Tony's just got to eliminate the scrums altogether.
Or at least keep them in kayfabe. Holy hell. Like, I know they do slip in and out of kayfabe on most of these press conferences, and sometimes it's fun. Yeah. And sometimes we have to guess what's kayfabe and what's not, which is also kind of fun. But this, considering what happened on Sunday, they might have to just be like, it's kayfabe or we're going to stop.
Yeah. It's rough out there for these reporters, man. You mentioned a good point that we got to address, which is, this is not the first time we've heard stuff about Thunder Rosa. And look, it's not fair to her if she's often at the center of rumors. She is not the first wrestler that would be the case for. She won't be the last. But typically, when there are this many reports of something negative going on, at least one of them is pretty close to the mark. So I don't know if this is legit. I don't know what's going on. You mentioned a lot of rumors going around about Thunder and how one of the rumors was that Thunder Rosa a month ago requested her release. That has since been disproven. That has been debunked, or I should say that should be debunked. It wasn't necessarily disproven.
Yes, Dave Meltzer, before this recording, so earlier Wednesday night, did come out and report that the rumors that Thunder Rosa had requested her release were untrue.
Yes. So that's one rumor that we could knock out. But another rumor that was a while ago was that this injury wasn't legit and that Thunder was actually suspended. And they just went with an injury angle to cover that suspension. Again, I don't know how true that is. It's probably not true. It's probably not. But Toni Storm's comments certainly add fuel to the fire that there is more than meets the eye with this situation. And it's going to be interesting when Thunder comes back, one way or the other, whether or not we hear about most of the conversation or whether or not it's all kayfabe. I don't know. There's definitely a little more heat now to this story than I think there would have been otherwise. But who knows? I certainly don't. I hope the main theme of tonight with this video has been AEW's backstage is clearly in disarray.
It's a tire fire.
Whether it's the main event stuff with the Elite and Punk, whether it's individuals like Malaki Black who are just apparently not doing well, or whether it's more drama in the women's division between a champion who might not be playing ball. It's unfortunate that this once, like I said before, rah roster, that everybody was happy in unison and everyone was sitting around the campfire, singing campfire songs.
Quite literally on Sammy's vlog at one point.
Right? Isn't what it once was. And I hope the ship can be righted. We've heard in recent weeks, Chris Jericho has stepped up into a leadership role. Something that we had always sort of expected him to be in at one point or another. But he's done a great job of trying to keep the peace.
Shivani too, apparently. Shivani has seen some shit.
Yes, he has.
And so is Jericho. Jericho, I was gonna say, well, sorry to cut you off. I saw
No.
something that you point out. Jericho was in WCW when it was falling apart. He was in ECW when it was falling apart. He's been in WWE in some crazy ass times. This dude has been everywhere. He has seen everything.
God, it was Jericho all along. He's the one who's been causing all the trouble.
And there are also been reports that Shivani has become more of a right-hand guy to Tony Khan as well, just because Tony Khan is going to Shivani. Okay, you've seen this before. What's my best course of action?
I think the reality is, whether it's Shivani, whether it's Jericho, whether it's Mega, it's clear that Tony Khan needs to surround himself with people who are going to tell him how it is and are going to lead him in the right direction. We saw firsthand over 20 years of watching WWE. For you, what, 10 years?
More or less, yeah.
What happened when Vince McMahon surrounded himself with yes men? People who wouldn't tell him no and people who told him everything he did was the right thing to do. It turned into a very unfun product. Now, granted, Vince McMahon has a lot of bad things. I don't think anything that happened this weekend would have happened under Vince McMahon's watch.
Yeah, I mean, at least not to this extent. I mean,
yes.
I think the most that locker room has been in disarray, to my knowledge, is probably the Bret Hart situation and the days following that. But even then, as pissed as everybody was, only one person stayed home, and Mick Foley later said he regretted it. So, you know, he eventually was able to regalvanize them. But like, there's been fights backstage in WWE too. But but Vince sits people down and squashes shit out immediately. Tony has yet to do that at any point.
I could tell you off the top of my head legit fights backstage in WWE. Big Show and Great Khali.
Yep.
Goldberg and Jericho.
Sure, Orton got in a couple.
Brock and Jericho over Orton, or at least they got in each other's face. Booker T and Batista. All legitimate fights that happened backstage. But you notice what happened? One-on-one, got pulled apart. It's over. It's over. Clearly, this was a melting pot just waiting to burst. So I hope at the very least Tony Khan can now recognize there needs to be some level of a change. I think he's smart enough. I'm pretty sure he is smart enough to recognize that that is undoubted at this point. And we start to see those changes implemented in the locker room. I want to enjoy AEW so much because I do. I think AEW is my favorite wrestling product on TV right now. I think AEW is so needed in this industry that was so dominated by WWE. And I enjoy their product immensely. That said, this week, it was hard to enjoy their product when I was so overwhelmed with all the negativity surrounding it backstage.
Yeah, because you want to enjoy the on-screen stuff. And yeah, occasionally the backstage stuff leaks out, you know, and sometimes that works, like MJF. Yep. But in this instance, or at least, you know, for the Punk instance, it obviously doesn't. Because, I mean, this locker room looks like the mid-90s Mets right now. And trust me, you don't want to go there. People were getting hit with water guns filled with bleach. So,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, go look up the mid-90s Mets sometime. And the Mets had so many locker room problems that there is a bracket of a full 64 teams of locker room problems. Not just from the mid-90s, but from all time. But most of them were from there. Just to bring things back to Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa, like you were saying before, Thunder has had her problems. There have been plenty of reports that her and Britt Baker don't like each other. And, you know, that's been a problem. But at least they've been willing to work together and they just kind of avoid each other. Whatever's going on here between Toni and Thunder, we obviously don't know. But I do think had everything else not happened on Sunday, we would have been taking a lot closer look at this.
I agree.
Because
I completely agree.
It was very out of character for this to happen, both, I guess, in kayfabe and out. So once again, another situation we're going to have to keep an eye on. And I guess we're not really going to know anything until Thunder Rosa comes back from injury, but And so then it's definitely something to keep looking at. All right, let's do one last thing really quick, just to end on something a little entertaining. Braun Stroman made his return, to WWE this past Monday. I didn't see it because I was busy because it was Labor Day, but he's back and cool. And I wish we had Danny here, but he's not. He will be Braun, that is, on SmackDown this Friday. So I guess it does kind of look like he might be leaning towards being on the SmackDown roster.
Internally in WWE's internal roster, he is listed for the blue brand, and he is listed as a babyface, which, given how he came back on Monday, I don't know how you really can, but
well, guys who are returning tend to be baby faces. Bringing people back as heels necessarily doesn't always work. I think with an example we threw out at some point in the last few weeks was Seth Rollins coming back as a heel after his injury, and then waiting 3 weeks to turn a babyface. It was a terrible idea. Look, I think at least for now, Braun is going to be getting face pops because he's back, and people are going to be like, he's back and it's cool. I mean, shit, MJF got one on Sunday. And I know he played into it on Wednesday until Moxley called him out, but he was getting chance in Chicago over Punk just because we were seeing his face again. So I think, at least for now, I would imagine Braun is going to be there as a babyface. What they have planned for him, I do not know. Let's see if he goes after Roman again. Him versus Walter could be an interesting matchup.
That would be a fun match.
Gunther, excuse me. I was still always call him Walter in the back of my head. just a big hoss match again after his great one with Sheamus last weekend. So I don't know what his plans are, James. I think I'm more interested in the fact that he is back. Obviously, he was in Control Your Narrative, and I guess he gave up trying to control it because now Triple H is writing it for him.
That was good. I think you're right. Control Your Narrative is now a big question mark. Their initial comment was that their touring is now a little more up in the air. They had a full set scheduled, and now I don't know if that's happening because the reality is Adam Scherr, now Braun Strowman again, was probably their top attraction. So very interesting to see what happens with that company, I suppose. But in terms of Braun Strowman being in WWE again, look, I was a fan of Braun Strowman, the character. I think he served a brilliant role in the company. And I think the reality is, I don't know where he fits anywhere else. Yeah, Control Your Narrative aside, I think Braun Strowman it was perfectly placed in WWE. I don't think he could have ever really succeeded in AEW. I don't think he would have fit. I don't think he would have. Maybe he could have done well in Japan as a gaijin monster, but I don't think that was ever in the cards for him. I don't think that's something he was ever going to do. He's too big, literally and figuratively, for Impact.
I was going to ask about Impact. I guess he just kind of makes everyone look so small that he would be an unbeatable person.
There are big guys in Impact. There are. But the reality is Braun Strowman's character, even if he was Adam Scherr, the Titan or whatever, would have probably just felt bigger. He's a former Universal Champion coming in, and his stature, he would have been an interesting addition.
A tall dude too. I don't know if anybody is that tall on Impact's roster, especially with he gone.
I think they had, before, unfortunately, having to go back to deal with his brain cancer, Joe Doring would have been a good size comparison for him. But regardless, Braun Strowman is, I think, exactly in the place he belongs, which is WWE. Now, I don't know what you do with him. I don't, like you mentioned, Roman Reigns. I don't know if that's the route. The route. It's been a long night. A lot of powder still in here.
Oh God, yeah. For those of you who don't get that reference, go watch our show, the live from Wednesday night. Even if you go watch it, but at least get through the first 12 minutes and then see where you want to go from there. But trust me, it's worth your time.
I hope so. Braun Strowman going down that route of going after the Universal Champion Roman Reigns. I don't want to see him come back to lose. What happened? What did I do?
Oh, no, I was just thinking of a joke I should have made during the live, and now I'm upset I didn't make it.
Damn. I'm going to have to hear it after. But, Braun losing to Roman doesn't feel like the play. I like him going for a mid-card title would be interesting. Like you said, Gunther, going for that Intercontinental title would be cool.
Big
Braun
meat
is a
slapping
former.
meat.
Oh, I love it. And who knows? Maybe this opens the door to EC3 coming back. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not saying I'm rooting for it, but it's possible. And at the very least, it's just nice that WWE's talent pool is opening up again. I think we can agree that for a while, it would be hard to play a WWE video game with how many people were released, So I think Braun being back is a net positive all around, and hopefully they're able to capitalize. And one last thing I will add, if I may. It's interesting because Braun, I believe, is the first instance of a guy who wasn't really a Triple H guy coming back. Everyone else who's come back was definitely an NXT Triple H favorite. Karrion Kross, big Triple H guy. Dexter Lumis, NXT guy. Johnny Gargano, Jesus, obviously. Help me out. Anybody else? Dakota Kai, another.
I forgot Dakota was actually released. Yeah.
Right. So all these people were Triple H people that got released under the Vince McMahon regime, and they came back. Braun Strowman is the first instance of this. Was definitely I think he made maybe 1 or 2 appearances on NXT, and I don't know if they were ever televised.
No, I think they were all dark matches. I mean, he was an NXT product and so to speak, of coming through the Performance Center and everything.
But it was very quick.
Yeah, but Triple H didn't really have his fingerprints on his character the way he did all those people you just mentioned.
Exactly. So if Braun Strowman is coming back, that does open the door to possibilities of other people coming back. I don't know who, but it's very interesting what could be now.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to get a lot of interesting free agents plays here now that not only this has opened that door, but I think Triple H is a much more, I'm trying to think of the word here. He's not
diplomatic.
Vince.
He's diplomatic.
But he's also not Vince. And I think a lot of wrestlers see the way he books things and are a lot more in tune with what he does versus what Vince was doing. So I think there's going to be a lot of people who, whether or not they were former NXT and want to go back to going under Triple H because he treated them really well and they enjoyed the way he presented them, or perhaps it's, some people who are in the indies who want to come to there, or maybe even certain people in AEW who aren't finding the right traction they thought they were going to get when they signed there. As that roster, as we said, has gotten a little bloated, and some of that's Ring of Honor, and I'm sure it'll go down when Ring of Honor comes around. But, if you went to AEW expecting one thing and didn't get it, perhaps maybe the grass is looking a little greener on the other side, not to quote Punk again, but
I mean, I liked anti-Punk as I am right now. I did like what he said. The grass is as green as you let it be, or whatever he said.
But as much as you water it.
Yeah.
But, so maybe people just want to go try WWE out. It's AJ Styles is like, hey, let me give this a shot after all these years. And it's worked out very well for him. So I think we'll be seeing a lot of movement as contracts expire. I'm sure we've had this discussion. And I think we've said this before. It's a very fun time for wrestling, despite everything that happened on Sunday. It's a very good time to be a wrestling fan. And Triple H being in charge is going to lead to a lot of these things because he's always willing to do business with people as long as there's money to be made, because that is the one thing he learned from Vince.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So that pretty much wraps things up for us here tonight or today, or whenever you're watching. For us, it's like 2:30 in the morning, so that's why I can barely talk. But we want to thank you all very much, so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. We are up over 100 subscribers. So James's rap and beer dye will be coming soon. He's just making sure he's got all his lyrics down pat before he, actually tries to rhyme, which is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Be sure to check out all of our social media stuff in the description. Also, like we mentioned earlier, we will have links to that other video where we went more in depth on the history between CM Punk, the Colt Cabana, Hangman, and the Elite, in case you guys want to catch up on all of that and our opinions on it. And be sure to check out our other video as well. We talk a lot about some fun shit. I'm telling you, go watch Wednesday's Dynamite Live. It is worth every second of your time. But other than that, again, thank you so much for watching. So for James Gisante, my name is Nick Cummings, and we will catch you here next time on the Mark It Down podcast. Have a good one, everyone.